So there's been some interesting back and forth this week on prompting techniques with Veo-3, namely that of text versus JSON prompting. So today I figured we'd take a deep dive in to see if there really is a best prompting strategy, plus some tips and tricks along the way. I've also got a first look at a brand new Kling workflow. Yeah, you guys are definitely going to want to check this out. And then we'll round out with, well, some good Midjourney news. So kicking off with some fairly minor Veo-3 updates before we dive into our main course. This does mostly involve the Flow platform, so if you're using Veo-3 via API, not a lot of this will necessarily relate to you. Namely, it looks like they have made some improvements to the scene builder function in that it now auto-saves your work. That actually has burned me in the past. The other kind of minor updates is that text-to-video in Veo-3 will now generate voices for a subject of all ages. I guess that is not exclusive to Flow. That is going to be available via API.
I can't believe we can finally talk like this in videos.
I know, it's like magic. Now everyone can hear our real voices.
Overall, pretty minor updates, but it is good to see that they are continuing to work on the Flow platform, as I do think that there is a ton of potential there. That out of the way, let's bite into our big kahuna burger. There has been some pretty interesting back and forth this week on prompting techniques in Veo-3, namely again, text versus JSON. So just to bring everyone up to speed on JSON prompting, in case you're not aware, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. You can kind of think of it as a way to organize information into categories that makes it much easier for machines to understand, but is still legible to, the human eye. The JSON format was created by Douglas Crockford, who developed the idea over the course of a summer at Camp Crystal Lake. Only one of those things is true. In terms of the origin of JSON prompting in Veo-3, well, I mean, to be honest, there really is no clear answer, and I've gotten digging. Instead, the idea seems to have sprung up organically through a lot of community experimentation, which I don't know, I kind of think makes it cooler. Now, it is important to note that within JSON prompting, there is no standardized formula. For example, friend of the channel, Stealthy the Time Traveler, recently posted up a JSON prompt that he utilized. And I know if you're looking at this and you're not familiar with JSON prompting, you're like, that just looks like a wall of crazy text. But when you break it down, you can start seeing the categories, such as scene and action here. We do have camera angle, lighting, aspect ratio is here, and then, action and motion down here. The end result is a video that, well, let's face it, makes anyone who has ever built anything from IKEA super jealous. Whereas the formula that I like to use has these as kind of our category buckets. As always, if you're interested in getting the GPT gem builder that I utilize to, put this all together, that is available totally for free over on Gumroad. Now, as far as what JSON actually has to offer, well, it ultimately comes down to more control. For example, if we just use natural language of a fast red sports car, that leaves a lot of options for the model to decide, what does fast mean? What does red mean? What does sports car mean? Whereas with the JSON prompt, we can go as far as to give it a color hex code for what color red that is, and even how fast the car is going. Interestingly, when it comes to efficiency, at least for simple prompts, natural language actually is the winner there. Something like a cinematic shot of a red rose only runs 7 to 8 tokens, whereas the JSON output of that same prompt it gets up to 20 to 25 tokens. But conversely, with longer, more descriptive prompts, which is something that I think we all tend to favor, that is actually where JSON ends up coming out on top, namely due to the fact that it cuts out glue words or articles, prepositions, and descriptive phasing, a, in, a, from, with, etc., etc. All that said, the debate for natural language prompts, I believe, kicked off with a tweet from Jason Zada, who you might remember as the filmmaker who created the Veo-2 short film, The Getaway, as well as the Wu-Tang video for Mandingo, which is awesome, by the way. Zada called out JSON prompting as not intuitive or expressive. Actually, it's like trying to write a love letter using Excel. That's pretty funny. Instead, he advocates for using natural language with a structure, which he does outline here. And I do want to note that he's not saying don't use an LLM. He's just saying, use natural language and an LLM with a structure like this. Lots of debate back and forth on this, leading to the question, well, is there a difference in the output? Well, let's go burn some credits and find out. So checking in with our man in the green tuxedo, who you may remember was last seen being left at the altar by the woman in the red dress. Here he is in natural text language prompting.
She left me, but I'll have my revenge. I'm gonna find that man in a blue business suit and make him pay!
Ooh, it looks like we have the origin of our villain. Overall, pretty solid output. I did utilize the prompt structure that Jason had outlined earlier, run through Gemini 2.5. Yeah, solid output here. A little bit of a garbled text in the background, but I mean, at the same time, that's just AI video. Now for that exact same base prompt, this time run through a JSON prompt.
She left me, but I'll have my revenge. I'm gonna find that man in a blue business suit and make him pay.
Overall, also a pretty solid output. I mean, back to back, they're very, similar. But I do want to point out that in the natural language version, we did call out for the camera to begin on a medium shot and slowly push in, tightening on his face as he delivers his line. That did not actually happen here. Instead, our actor actually walked towards the camera. Whereas in the JSON prompt, it called out for a single continuous slow push in, starting in a medium shot and then ending, on a tight close-up, which indeed we did get. Another quick text-to-video test, this time kind of incorporating a 70s crime, kind of taxi driver vibe. Yeah, that's pretty solid. No complaints there. Okay, let's try that out, the exact same prompt again with JSON prompting. Now, in terms of the actual shots, I think that both are pretty much on par with one another. That said, obviously, the JSON music cue was, kind of lacking. It was likely part of the prompt of a tense minimalist score with a funky bass line and quiet cymbals, none of which we actually got there. But again, when you're queuing for music in Veo-3, it's always a bit of a dice roll. One last text-to-video test before heading over to image-to-video. That whole love letter in Excel thing really did get me thinking, like, how would Veo react with kind of more abstract prompts? So I took the opening lines to T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland and just ran those as just a straight text prompt, and this is what we got. And for sure, that output is picking up things like April's the Cruelest Month, The Breeding Lilacs, Dead Land, Dull Roots, and Spring Rain. So it was really interesting to compare that to the JSON output, which looked like this.
Ich bin kein Russin, stamme aus Litauen, echt deutsch.
No! Marie, halt dich fest!
And while I'll admit that does look like a bit of a mess, particularly like the whole bit with the woman speaking German, when you dig into it, what you can see that what it's doing is it's actually picking up a lot more of the poem, from the lilacs to the woman saying that she is not Russian, she's from Lithuania, even down to the kids out on the sled. Now, granted, we are going through an additional level of thinking by taking this through an LLM to output the JSON prompt, but I do think it also showcases that utilizing the JSON format, you can get a lot more granular. So on the image to video side, I ended up utilizing this scene. I wanted to have the two characters in the foreground there discussing the bunker and the end of the world, but to have hold that as an establishing shot and then cut to essentially close-ups of them. This is something that Veo-3 is very good at. So our initial just straight natural language text prompt yielded this.
Please, you have to listen to me.
We need to get to the bunker. It's the only way.
I know, but is it truly safe?
I mean, that is pretty good. Squint your eyes a bit, and that's an HBO show. Now, I will say that Veo did the thing that it can do from time to time, which is jump from that first frame into essentially the same location. It just gives us completely different shots. There is a way that we can utilize this to our advantage that we'll take a look at later on. But yeah, we did not get that establishing opening shot. So rerunning this as a JSON prompt, it does not come out perfect, but it does actually lead to a pretty interesting trick.
The bunker is our only chance.
A chance to what? To be the last ones left?
So yeah, pretty solid, other than the fact that we did get a fairly jarring jump cut there. By the way, is that the bunker that's right behind them? Why are they looking for the bunker? It's right there. So one thing you can do, and I've been utilizing Gemini for this, mostly because, I have the Ultra plan, so I might as well use it, is just upload the video back to Gemini and say like, hey, this is a weird jump cut. Can you give me a prompt that fixes that?
The bunker is our only chance.
A chance to what? To be the last ones left?
And it did indeed fix that cut. Now, granted, it did not give us another cut. Instead, it gave us a push in, and it also put a weird, like, howling wolf in the background who is clearly going to eat everyone in the bunker by the end of this movie. But I did want to highlight that is a way to work with an LLM when you're not getting a desired output. Just ask. Now, I do want to point out that JSON prompting can sometimes get frustrating, especially when you're trying to diagnose a problem. Take, for example, our, hard-nosed noir detective here, running this with a natural language prompt to get a twofer out of it, we end up with this.
It was a Tuesday when she walked in. Nothing good ever happens on a Tuesday.
Overall, a pretty solid output. I am a little concerned about our guy's liver, considering that he's on his third glass now, and we can tell by the lighting, the sun hasn't even gone down yet. Our guy is putting the hard in hard boiled. Now, the problem with our JSON output of the same prompt was, well, I'll let you check it out.
It was a Tuesday when she walked in. Nothing good ever happens on a Tuesday.
I mean, is crime noir country musical a thing? I guess we just made it, and I gotta say, it was a bit of a hassle to figure out. Gemini actually couldn't figure it out. It turns out that it was something between the voiceover, the gravelly and tired, and then the background melody playing continuously. Something about those combinations, for some reason, triggers country music. Now, one additional benefit, kind of a hack that you can utilize with JSON prompting is something that I've documented a few times on the channel. If you use an image prompt, you can use a prompt like immediately cut to a completely different situation, and a lot of times the attributes of that image will then carry over. Now, this does not work all the time, and a lot of times, especially with characters, you'll just have a character kind of hanging out in that initial environment. That said, with JSON prompting, we can take an image like this and immediately have her move over into like a cyberpunk setting.
Where can I find the dark wizard?
Or for some strange reason, she's picked up a gig as an office temp.
Where can I find the dark wizard?
I love the fact that Bill from accounting here is like, I gotta talk to HR about this lady. But yeah, by utilizing a JSON prompt of something like scene description, then timing it at 0 to 0 seconds, and then just completely changing the prompt, you do seem to have a very high success rate. So ultimately, when it comes down to natural language prompting or JSON prompting, I honestly, I don't think that there's a clear winner either way. As I always say, there is no right or wrong way to prompt. Experiment around, see which one you gravitate towards or which one you like more. So definitely let me know down in the comments which you've been having more success with. Okay, let's go check in and see what's going on with Kling's new workflow. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. If there's one thing I really love about the community of folks around this channel, it's that we all come into AI content creation from different backgrounds. We've obviously got a lot of video creators, musicians, illustrators, 3D folks, but there are also folks here very knowledgeable in world history, and I've definitely picked up a recipe or two down in the comments section. So even if you're just getting started in AI or you're like a comfy node wizard, I'd wager a good $1 that all of you are an expert in something else as well. And a great place to share that knowledge with others is Teachable, who were kind enough to sponsor today's video. Now, I'm sure you're all aware of Teachable. They have been a staple of the online education space for quite some time. But what you might not know is that they've recently launched an AI course curriculum generator to help you build and outline your course. So for example, we can begin just by describing a course. In this case, we'll go with a Midjourney prompting course, taking students from the basics of image generation in Midjourney all the way through the more advanced commands and then finally into video. We simply hit continue here. And as you can see, just from that description, we already have an entire course outline. Now, it is important to note, Teachable does not actually create your course for you. That is still your job. But you can see that it makes it very easy. We simply add in some content, either text, images, video, even audio. And what's kind of cool is that you can actually generate quizzes as well, or even just auto-generate quizzes for each individual section. There are also design templates available to you to give your course a professional look. Let's take a look at this one. And although this course does not have any information in it yet, we can see that Professor Man in a blue business suit is now taking attendance. From there are a whole host of other tools available to you to manage unlimited amounts of students. They do have an app hub here that will allow you to connect from everything from Calendary. Zapier is in here. I did see that, and MailChimp as well. So yeah, just a lot of integrations and options for you. Teachable also pays you out very quickly for any courses sold via Teachable Pay, which is available globally. So yeah, basically Teachable has everything you need, all right on platform. So if you've been thinking about taking your expertise in, anything from AI video, comfy UI, or again, anything really. Like, I'm still trying to figure out how to finish this train wreck of an experiment. And you know what? Teachable does have a course on that, which I do think does go to show that whatever your skills, Teachable is a great place to turn it into a digital product. And in good news, Teachable has given us an exclusive 30-day extended free trial. Hit the link down in the description to start getting paid to share what you know. Thanks to Teachable for sponsoring today's video. So sliding over to Kling, they have introduced an entirely new workflow. Now, I do have to say right off the top, this is super early access. From what they've told me, at least if you're watching this video early on, we're looking at least 2 weeks before this goes into wide release. But I am genuinely curious to see how you guys are going to react to this because, as it turns out, Kling is going full murder board. This will be a new feature called Kling Lab, which will be located down here, presumably at least. What this will lead to is, a node-based workflow. Now, I do want to point out I have not had a ton of time to play with this. In fact, this just dropped into my inbox a few hours ago, but I did want to give you guys at least a first look at it. I will be back later on with like a full deep dive into all of this. As you can see, we can essentially begin with a text box that can go over to their image generator colors, and then we can out that node over to image previews and then out to video. So and then we have each of our videos here. Beyond that, it does look like they're adding in a few new features as well, such as Copilot, which acts as kind of a creative assistant. Interesting one in here is that it can analyze image and video content. So that's kind of cool. And then as an additional bonus to using this asset node system, it does appear that you can do things like combine multiple assets and then create an output from that. That is something that I will definitely be digging into in a video next week. Look, I know that nodes, spaghetti noodles, and murder boards are not everyone's favorite thing, but for me, I've always found it to be a pretty interesting working style that can sometimes lead you into some interesting results in places that you did not expect. Now, I will say that Kling Lab is currently a bit on the limited side. This is like day one, so I'm not knocking them too hard. But again, this is something that I had mentioned when Kyber first switched over to their node-based workflow, and even Flora when they first got started, in that, there are a lot of outs. Let me see if I can grab that node. There are a lot of outs, but there are not a lot of ins. So that is something that I presume will develop as more features are added in, and once you guys all get access to it, you guys start telling them what you want to see. But in the meantime, I'm pretty excited to start putting Kling Labs through its paces. Now, to note, if you hate node-based workflows and all of this is giving you a headache, that's okay. Kling regular is not going anywhere. You can still use the standard Kling interface. This is just a different way of working, and I hope as time goes on, will evolve into its own thing. I'll be back with a deeper look at this sometime, hopefully next week, basically when I have longer than 15 minutes to play with it. Sliding over to some Midjourney news. It looks like we'll be able to start generating in 720p for Midjourney video very soon. This was spotted by friend of the channel, Christopher Friant. This was mentioned in yesterday's office hours. So not only a 720p mode, potentially also a turbo mode is going to be coming our way. And then additional features will be a start and end frame and a looping feature as well. All of which is really great news. I've really been endlessly entertained by the Midjourney video model. It's really good. Although, of course, the downside being that 480 raster size, it's pretty small. So it'll be nice having a 720 output. At least that will give your upscaler, or even Topaz's Astra, the creative video upscaler, a little more to chew on when it starts blowing things up. And it does look like the Midjourney API is actually soon going to be a thing. Finally, one little Midjourney hack trick that I've been meaning to work into a video is this. You know how Midjourney can generate in weird aspect ratios? This is 11:8. Well, apparently you can also generate video in those weird aspect ratios. Something like this, I mean, what are you going to use it for? I don't know, but it's kind of cool looking. Stack a couple of these together, maybe as an installation piece or something. I don't know. It's just neat. I can't think of any other video generator that will generate in like super bizarre aspect ratios. So yeah, just plug some numbers in, see what happens. It's fun. So yeah, I guess that's it for today. I'm going to go hop over to Kling and see how many nodes I can wrap myself around. I will definitely be back very soon for a much deeper look at Kling Labs. In the meantime, I thank you for watching. My name is Tim.